If you're the kind of person who feels everything, who listens more than you speak, who notices the unspoken tension in a room, who overthinks every conversation and constantly analyzes why people do what they do, then this video is for you. Because you're not strange, you're not broken. You are what psychologists call a deep thinker, a mind wired for reflection, meaning, and understanding the unseen patterns of life. But here's the truth most people will never tell you. Being a deep thinker is both a superpower and a silent burden. You see the world with more detail, more depth, more emotion than others. And that's what makes you different. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of deep thinkers. Why your brain works the way it does. Why you sometimes feel misunderstood or mentally exhausted. And how to embrace this unique gift, not as a curse, but as a force that can illuminate the world around you. Deep thinkers are the quiet observers of the world. While most people are busy reacting, you're watching. You study behavior, tone, patterns, contradictions. Someone says, "I'm fine," but you catch that slight tremor in their voice, that flicker in their eyes, and you know they're not fine. You don't just hear words, you hear the weight behind them. That's because your mind is constantly analyzing, decoding, and connecting. You see 10 layers of meaning where others see one. Psychologically, this happens because of a heightened level of introspection, an inner radar that's always on. It's why you replay conversations in your head, why you question motives, and why you can't just move on from something that feels off. Your brain is wired to seek truth, not comfort. And that's what separates deep thinkers from the rest. Let's talk science for a second. Inside your brain is something called the default mode network, or DMN. It's the system that activates when your mind wanders, when you daydream, self-reflect, or analyze your thoughts. For deep thinkers, this network is hyperactive. It's like your brain never fully shuts down. Even when you're resting, you're thinking. You might be sitting quietly, staring out the window, and on the surface, you look calm. But inside, you're running mental simulations, imagining scenarios, exploring what-ifs, and diving into memories. This constant mental activity gives deep thinkers their creativity, empathy, and awareness, but it also causes mental exhaustion, overthinking, and even insomnia. You don't just live life, you dissect it. And sometimes that depth feels like carrying a heavy backpack of thoughts that you can't put down. There's a certain loneliness that comes with deep thinking, because you see what others ignore. You notice the illusions, the contradictions, the lies people tell themselves. You recognize that much of society runs on autopilot, chasing validation, possessions, and distractions, while ignoring their own emotional or spiritual emptiness. And when you try to talk about it, people say you're too serious, too sensitive, or too deep. But that's the paradox. You crave genuine connection, yet few people want to meet you at that depth. So you often sit in silence, not because you have nothing to say, but because you've learned that most conversations are just noise. It's not arrogance. It's simply that your soul values substance over surface. And sometimes that can make you feel alienated. But remember this, the reason you feel disconnected is because you see the world differently. And that difference is not a flaw. It's a sign of intelligence and awareness. Now, here's another layer. Deep thinkers live with what psychologists call metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. It's like having a second mind that's always watching the first. You don't just experience emotions, you analyze them. You don't just make decisions, you evaluate why you made them. You don't just exist, you're observing yourself existing. That's beautiful, but it can also be tormenting. Because while everyone else moves through life in simplicity, you're stuck questioning everything. Am I doing enough? Why did I say that? What if I'm not living up to my potential? Does any of this even mean anything? These thoughts aren't flaws. They're signs of depth. But if you don't learn to manage them, they can spiral into rumination, anxiety, or even existential dread. That's why many deep thinkers struggle with mental noise. Their brain never finds the off switch. But here's the secret. You don't need to silence your thoughts. You need to guide them. Turn that energy inward, not to self-destruct, but to self-understand. Deep thinkers crave meaning the way others crave comfort. You can't stand shallow conversations or meaningless routines. You need purpose, direction, and something real to believe in. You ask questions like, what am I doing with my life? What truly matters? Why are we here? And while others might call that overthinking, it's actually the very foundation of wisdom. Because meaning is not something you find. It's something you build through reflection, struggle, and awareness. The pain you feel when life feels pointless, that's not weakness. It's your mind refusing to live an unexamined life. As Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. And you, the deep thinker, are living proof of that truth.
Here's something every deep thinker has experienced. You share your thoughts with someone, and they just don't get it. They look at you like you're speaking another language. That's because, in a world designed for speed and simplicity, depth is often misinterpreted. People confuse reflection with sadness. They mistake solitude for loneliness. They see your silence and assume something's wrong, when in reality, that silence is your sanctuary. You're not lost, you're processing. You're not detached, you're observing. You're not weird, you're wired differently. And once you realize that, you stop trying to fit in and start standing out with intention. So how do you use this depth to your advantage? Here's the truth. Deep thinking isn't meant to trap you in your head. It's meant to guide you through it. Step 1. Transform rumination into reflection. Overthinking looks backward. Reflection looks within. Instead of asking, what if, ask, what can I learn? Step 2. Create. Deep thinkers are natural creators. Writers, artists, innovators, philosophers. You process life best when you express it. Turn your thoughts into something tangible. Because the moment you create, your pain becomes purpose. Step 3. Find your tribe. You might be rare, but you're not alone. There are others who feel just as deeply, question just as much, and see just as far. Connect with them. Talk with people who challenge your mind instead of draining it. Step 4. Embrace stillness. Your brain is powerful, but even powerful machines need rest. Meditate. Walk in silence. Breathe. Not to escape your thoughts, but to watch them with compassion instead of fear. When you stop fighting your mind and start understanding it, everything changes. Let's pause for a moment. You, the thinker, have probably been called too much your whole life. Too sensitive, too quiet, too serious, too intense. But that intensity, that's your gift. You don't look away from life, you stare right into it. You don't hide from pain, you turn it into wisdom. You don't just survive, you understand. Your ability to feel deeply, think critically, and imagine endlessly is what humanity needs more of. Because the world doesn't evolve through noise, it evolves through depth. Every philosopher, poet, scientist, and visionary who changed history was once told they think too much. But they didn't stop. They turned their questions into discoveries. their solitude into strength, their pain into power. There comes a moment in every deep thinker's life when you realize you don't need to be understood by everyone. You just need to understand yourself. That's when depth turns into direction, when your thoughts stop being storms and start being stars that guide you. When you stop analyzing life as a problem to solve and start seeing it as a mystery to live. So use your mind as a compass, not a cage. Use your awareness to lift others, not judge them. Use your insight to create peace, not chaos. Because deep thinkers aren't meant to drown in their minds. They're meant to illuminate the world with their understanding. So if you've ever felt out of place, like your thoughts are too big, your emotions too strong, and your silence too loud, remember this: you are not broken. You are rare. And rare minds are meant for extraordinary things. Your depth is not your weakness. It's your superpower. It gives you empathy in a world of indifference, vision in a world of distraction, and peace in a world of chaos. So stop apologizing for thinking too much. Stop trying to shrink your soul to fit small conversations. Stop hiding your questions just to make others comfortable. Instead, own your depth. Live it. Speak it. Share it. Because the world doesn't need more people who think less. It needs more deep thinkers. Like you. Don't drown in your thoughts. Use them to light the way for yourself and for others.